Hey, welcome to my first lecture on world history. On this very channel, I'll be posting a series of lectures about the greatest times and places from world history. Along the way, we'll meet the great archetypal characters of humanity, from the shamans in our tribal days, to the city builders and the astronomers in Mesopotamia, to the yogis of India, Chinese philosophers, Japanese Zen masters, Greek mathematicians, Roman statesmen, medieval alchemists, and Renaissance sculptors, and so on. Given current affairs, I thought it might be useful to start with the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, a topic that has fascinated the world for 2 millennia. So why is this of interest to us today? Well, just like our modern people, the Romans at the peak of their civilization would never truly believe that their empire could fall. But fall it did, and it is essential for us to learn from their mistake in order not to repeat it. So let's dig right in. The early Roman Republic was characterized by a strong moral foundation. All Romans were taught to aspire to certain virtues from an early age, mostly through storytelling. Virtues are the character traits that ennoble us as human beings, and up until about 100 years ago, it was very common that this was taught explicitly in schools. And as a matter of fact, nowadays psychologists are trying to bring it back, as there seems to be evidence that these virtues can actually help improve the country and its citizens. These virtues were believed to be essential to the success of Rome, so they were truly ingrained in the Roman mind. The ideal Roman citizen was willing to work for the greater good of the community, even when this contradicted his individual interests. So let's take an example. An important role model who represents this ideal was the retired general Cincinnatus. When Rome was under attack, he was asked to become dictator of Rome, which was allowed only in emergency situations for a period of 6 months, and then the democratic republic would resume. Here we see a 19th century painting of Cincinnatus on his farm and a few senators approaching. Cincinnatus accepted his position as dictator and was victorious after just a few days, after which he resigned immediately, returned to his farm in honor of the Republic. This voluntary resignation for the greater good of the Republic made him one of the great role models of Rome. Imagine a society based on the selfless action of Cincinnatus versus the modern Instagram influencer culture that we have today. So let's look at a few specific virtues that Romans deemed important. One of them is dignitas, or dignity, a sense carrying yourself with a sense of self-worth and respect. Frugalitas means moderation. Of course, moderation is very important in order to stabilize a society in a violent world. Being moderate in terms of greed and aggression stabilizes your community. Gravitas, very beautiful word, which means something like a dignified sense of self-control, self-responsibility. Severitas means self-discipline. Humanitas means being kind and cultured. Industria means industriousness, hard work. Pietas means dutifulness towards the gods, the state, and the family. The Romans realized the importance of stable families in order to bring up healthy young people. All these virtues, by the way, were also common in China. And this is also a reason why the Han Dynasty in China got very successful. So let's look at a final few. Veritas means truthfulness, being able to speak the truth even when it's difficult to do so. Clementia means mercy. Virtus, ver means man, so it can be translated as manliness, and it came to mean courage, character, and worth. Prudentia is self-control to reason, using your logic, your thinking abilities to work things out instead of just overreacting with emotion. Disciplina, or discipline. Constantia, perseverance. Justitia, justice, knowing right from wrong. And fides, mutual trust. Very important if you want to have a safe country and a stable economy. So we've looked at the culture of early Rome, now go to politics, which is equally interesting. In the late 6th century BC, Rome was conquered by the neighboring Etruscan civilization. When the Romans finally managed to chase the Etruscan king out, they were so done with the oppressive nature of kingship that they founded a democratic republic. The republic separated its power into 3 branches. Rome had 2 consuls, sort of prime ministers, but 2 of them who served as generals of the army as well. Then there was a senate made up of ex-consuls, and then there were the democratic assemblies at which the public could vote. Here we see an image, a reconstruction of the Roman Forum, the place where most of the politics of Rome took place. In the middle you see the speaker's platform, where politicians addressed the crowd. Here we see what is left of the Roman Forum, just a couple of pillars and the arch in the background. In 494 BC, the commoners of Rome, called the plebeians, an important word that we'll return to a couple of times, so the commoners are the plebeians, they still felt that they lacked true political representation, and as a result they evacuated Rome. They went on a strike, leaving the elites to fend for themselves. This was very successful, and it caused the creation of the so-called Plebeian Assembly, the assembly of the common people. The head of each assembly was called a tribune, also a word that we'll return to commonly. And a tribune could propose legislation and could veto new laws, making a tribune very powerful in Roman politics. Well, giving more power to the people was truly a necessary move, but it also created 2 powerful opposing factions in Roman politics that caused a lot of tensions. The poor people and the elites were constantly trying to outdo each other. And this became a problem. This problem became especially clear in 133 BC, when an aristocrat, an elite named Tiberius Gracchus, took the side of the plebeians. So what did he do? Well, he spoke out against the powerful families that were monopolizing government positions and that claimed all the new conquered farmlands instead of dividing it equally among the population. Gracchus also rallied against the low status of the so-called allies. So we have to talk about what allies are for a moment. Well, Rome at the beginning was just a city, and when it conquered the rest of Italy, all the conquered Italians did not receive full citizenship. Instead, they were called allies. This might have made sense at the beginning, as they were a conquered people, but after centuries has passed, the allies had been totally Romanized. They felt Roman, they spoke Latin and so on, so they felt they should be totally accepted, and this caused a lot of resentment. To resolve the issue, Tiberius ran for tribune of the plebeians, a very unprecedented move. He was elected, and then he proposed a plan to distribute the conquered land more fairly. The Senate strongly opposed this, of course, and they pushed another tribune or another assembly to veto this proposal. This was also an unprecedented move. So people are starting to test the boundaries of the democracy. In response, Tiberius managed to remove this other tribune from office, which was also unprecedented. And when Tiberius' term was over, he ran for office another time, which was against the rules. And now the Senate was fed up. Senate members beat Tiberius and nearly 300 of his followers to death. Things escalated very quickly within that 1 year. A decade later, his brother, Gaius Gracchus, stepped into his brother's footsteps. He also became tribune of the plebeians. And eventually he was chased down by senators as well and committed suicide to avoid capture. One of Gaius Gracchus' plan was to subsidize rice, allowing poor people to buy it below market price. This became an often used strategy to get the masses on your side. Of course, something had to be done about the poverty in Rome. But at the same time, this was a really cheap way to get the masses on your side and get tremendous political power. Just promise to give free stuff to people. And in fact, this was done a lot. A century later, about a third of Rome received subsidized grain to the detriment of the economy. The Gaius brothers, with all their moves that we've just discussed, had set a precedent for aristocrats to use the plebeians, the common folk as a shortcut to political power. And this was the seed that was going to end the Roman Republic in the end. In 91 BC, things truly got out of hand when another aristocrat named Marcus Livius Drusus was elected tribune. When he too got assassinated, the Allies declared war on Rome. Rome did win in the end, but the Allies pressured Rome enough to grant the Allies full citizenship. So you might think, okay, things finally got resolved, the tensions are gone. But nope, there was a counter-reaction. From then on, things only got worse. The successful general Sulla used the army under his command to march on Rome and took over the city. Sulla then named himself dictator, and once in charge, he increased the power of the Senate, decreased the power of the tribunes, and purged a lot of his opponents. But the intentions of Sulla could have been worse, for his intentions were just to stabilize the Republic, restoring the Senate to its former glory. But after doing what he thought was necessary, he resigned immediately and he withdrew to his country estate. So it could have been much worse. Here we have an image of Sulla for those who want a face with the person. Sulla's takeover of Rome had set another dangerous precedent, however. It showed all kinds of popular generals, strongmen, that it was possible to take over by force. And as you might expect, this led to a number of those strongmen to appear. 3 of them are especially important: Pompey the Great, Marcus Crassus, and Gaius Julius Caesar. 3 great generals that had proven each other in battles along various parts of the empire, or the Republic at this point. Together, these 3 men formed an alliance called the First Triumvirate, helping each other to positions of power, but eventually Crassus was killed in battle somewhere. Caesar turned on Pompey and defeated him in battle. Pompey had taken the side of the Republic, Caesar won and named himself dictator of Rome. Here we have Pompey on the left, Caesar on the right. But then Caesar made a mistake of naming himself dictator for life, while the Romans still had a strong aversion for kings from the Etruscan days. As a result, he was stabbed to death by a great number of senators. He had many stab wounds in his chest. Caesar's right hand, Mark Antony, was ready to take over. He gave a spectacular funeral oration during which he lifted a wax copy of Caesar, showing the crowds the stab wounds. Being very popular with the commoners, both Mark Antony and Caesar, the crowd lost it. They burned down the Senate house, for real. They created a pyre out of wood, breaking down tables and so on that they could find. And they cremated Caesar's body on the spot. So you see, there's still a lot of tension with the public. Out of fear, the Republican senators withdrew from Rome, allowing Mark Antony to easily take over. Yet Mark Antony was finally defeated unexpectedly by Caesar's adopted son and grandnephew named Octavian, who is better known as Augustus. Octavian did not want to make the same mistake as Caesar, so he didn't want to appear too kingly. He didn't want to appear as a dictator. So he set out to make it appear that the Republic functions as usual, while behind the scenes he actually pulled most of the power towards him. So the Republic functioned in name only, and de facto it was an empire. So that is why Octavian, or Augustus, is commonly seen as the first emperor of Rome. Augustus also chose modest appearance, not to appear too kingly, wearing just a simple toga and living in a modest-sized house instead of a palace. While he ended the Republic, he did manage to stabilize Rome, which was a remarkable feat after those decades and decades of tension that we just discussed. Amazingly, Augustus managed to rule the empire for 40 years until he finally died of old age. Here we have a statue of Augustus. Now let's look at what the Romans themselves thought was the cause of the fall of the Republic. According to them, it had to do with the decline in morals. It was believed that while early Roman leaders had prided themselves on working for the common good, we've seen Cincinnatus, they now only lusted for political gain. And here we have a quote to finish from Sallust, an historian living just before the empire. We quote, "Ambition prompted many to become deceitful, to keep one thing concealed in the breast and another on the tongue, to estimate friendships and hostility not by their worth but according to interest, and to carry rather a misleading countenance rather than an honest heart." And we continue, "When sloth has introduced itself in the place of industry, and covetousness and pride in that of moderation and equity, the condition of a state is altered, together with its morals." Well, here we have the fall of the Roman Republic, and next time we will look at the fall of the Roman Empire. If you want to know more about the Roman Republic, I advise you to get my book, The Great World History Book. At this point, you can only get it at worldhistorybook.com. See you next time.